I don't give a shit about what Dana White think.
Francis Ngannou reminded MMA fans just how dangerous he is in the cage, as he absolutely steamrolled Renan Ferreira, knocking him unconscious in the first round of the PFL Battle of the Giants pay-per-view event in Saudi Arabia. Following the win, Francis was emotional as he dedicated the performance to his son Kobe, who passed away earlier this year at just 15 months old. "I can't just think about anything than my son Kobe," Ngannou said. "I only take this fight for him. I hope they can remember his name, because without Kobe, I wouldn't be here tonight. It's been tough. Not only the training camp was tough, but the last 2 days was tough. Full of emotion. I couldn't do anything without thinking about it. It's hard. This is for Kobe." Ngannou's victory marked his successful debut in the PFL following the promotion's massive investment in him after his UFC departure. When asked about his future, the Predator remained undecided, unsure if he'd continue in MMA or return to boxing. For now, his focus was solely on dedicating this win to his son, leaving his next move up in the air. "I knew I didn't miss a step," Francis said about his comeback. "I wasn't worried about it. I knew everything was still there. It was just about me being able to manage my emotion. We're here. We finally get the result. I think my next move in combat sports all depends on me, how I feel. I always thought I still had a lot to give in combat sports. Hopefully I keep thinking that way. They've been telling me I'm tough to the point where I think I'm tough, and I recently just found out I wasn't tough," Ngannou told MMA Junkie and other reporters post-fight. "I wasn't that tough. Life can let you take the events and think you're running away, and then it hits you really bad from the front. It's something that I never imagined. I never knew how I would feel. I see people going through, and out of compassion, I tried to understand how they must feel, but I would never get anywhere close to how it feels exactly." Ngannou said the circumstances around the fight makes the result and title victory more meaningful than his UFC championship win. Although it wasn't the stand-up war some expected, Ngannou said he knew he was a more complete fighter than Pereira and took the path of least resistance to get his hand raised. "I could have tried to stay in striking and figure out who can box better than who," Francis said, "but at the end of the day, it's about the win. Even though he has good jiu-jitsu, I know I have good enough wrestling to control his jiu-jitsu and his position on the ground if I'm on top." Daniel Cormier shares his thoughts on whether Francis Ngannou deserves to be called the greatest heavyweight in the world following his dominant win over Renan Ferreira. In a video uploaded to his YouTube channel, DC said, "When you watch that, do you ask yourself, is Francis Ngannou still the best heavyweight in the world? Is he? I don't know if you can compare Renan to those guys. He has too many holes in his game. But when you watch Francis, what he did tonight, he does to all those guys he fought before if he doesn't do it in more impressive fashion. So I can't say that he isn't one of the best heavyweights in the world, because what do we see that showed slippage? What did we see that told us Francis Ngannou isn't the guy he was when he left in 2022, when he was the UFC heavyweight champion? For my money, Aspinall, Francis, Jones, those guys all live in a bubble. I don't think that you can separate one from the other because he has not been competing in mixed martial arts. I think tonight Francis Ngannou cemented himself as still one of the greatest heavyweights in the world, if not the best heavyweight fighter in the world right now." UFC President Dana White held an Instagram Live couple of hours after Ngannou's title fight, where a random fan asked him about Ngannou's fight.
"Listen, these guys, at some point, everybody's going to move on, and everybody has to do what's right for them and make money for their families. So, you know, whatever they got to do, they got to do." I know how the story ends. I get what Francis is doing. I wish the PFL all the luck in the world. I wish him all the luck in the world.
Alexander Volkanovski reveals plan to compete on UFC 312. Although the Great remains a highly popular figure, his 2 knockout losses have pushed him out of the title contention. He's taken some much-needed time off, but it's uncertain whether he'll get an immediate shot at reclaiming the featherweight title. In a recent interview, Volk expressed his desire to make his comeback at UFC 312 in 2025 in Sydney, Australia. Quote, "You've got Ilia and Max fighting next weekend. I'll be there watching and keeping a close eye on that one, obviously. Maybe get into a face-off. We'll see what happens with the winner. But hopefully I'll be fighting the winner here in Sydney, right? That's definitely what we want, just depending on what happens with the title. If Max wins, is he going to lightweight and doing the BMF? Will that mean that I'm doing an interim title here against Lopez or something? I'm not sure. If Ilia wins, whether they can bring him to Cindy, we'll see. That's the plan. That's what the UFC wants. That's what I want. I think that's what everyone else here in Australia wants as well. What do you want to see next for Alexander Volkanovski in the UFC? Should he go for a title shot or take on a new challenge? Let us know your thoughts. Max Holloway reveals his Fighter of the Year for 2024. In a recent interview with Kevin Iole, Max was asked about his upcoming UFC return and the potential 2024 Fighter of the Year. While many fans believe Holloway could claim the title with a win over Ilia Topuria later this month, the Hawaiian doesn't seem to share that view. Instead, Holloway named Alex Pereira as his pick for Fighter of the Year. Pereira, fresh off his victory over Khalil Roundtree in Salt Lake City earlier this month, secured his third win of the year with a fourth-round stoppage, further solidifying his case for the accolade. While Max Holloway is aware of how big beating Ilia Topuria and Justin Gaethje is, he believes Poten might have him beaten. Given the Brazilian's ability to step up on short notice several times, Max can't help but also be impressed by Pereira. However, Holloway added that he's used to not being in the Fighter of the Year conversation by now. I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know that I would be that. The way Alex took fights, I mean, he's the fastest guy to defend his title, right? With 3 title defenses, that's a hard man to beat. He continued, I mean, every time I'm in the talks for being Fighter of the Year, somebody's having a crazy ass year. I think Alex Pereira has got that win in the bag already. What do you think about Max Holloway's comments? Do you agree that the light heavyweight champ Pereira deserves the title of Fighter of the Year? Share your thoughts. Tom Aspinall predicts a hypothetical fight against Francis Ngannou. During a recent video on his YouTube channel, the interim UFC champ addressed the idea of him battling the Predator and what would happen. That's a good fight. That's a great fight. Aspinall said, I've always been a big fan of Francis. I love his story, love what he's all about. I think it's a 50-50 fight, to be honest. Francis is a scary man, but I think technically I would take the edge. But I think that's a great fight. Aspinall went on to discuss his own plans for the future. I'm just training to be the backup fighter right now, Aspinall said. I'm getting myself fight. Do I think it's going to happen? Probably not, but I'll be ready for it if it does. And we just spoke to the UFC. We've got some plans in place. I can't reveal them right now because they're top secret, but there is big news coming soon. Right now, there's a strong case for Tom Aspinall being the best heavyweight in the world, and many fans and analysts might agree. His skill set, speed, and finishing ability have impressed everyone in the division. However, the debate remains complicated by the presence of legends like John Jones and Francis Ngannou. Both fighters have made significant impacts in the heavyweight landscape, so while Aspinall's recent performances are exceptional, the legacy and achievements of Jones and Ngannou mean that a unanimous consensus on the top spot is unlikely. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for daily MMA news.